Yeah. So we're on 88b, about 10 lines down, but we had a Mishnah 88a that went through a number of materials that you could use, even though the Torah said only afar, dirt, but we mentioned a number of other materials that are used as well. And then we mentioned a number of materials that you cannot use. So we're in the middle of figuring out what the source is. So the Gemara told us that the Torah says afar, which is dirt, but then also the word v'chiso, you should cover over. And v'chiso taught you that it's more expansive than just dirt. So though we ended off with saying, well, why did you include these and exclude those? We said, well, the things that we included are really types of dirt, things that you crush up and things that are much more similar to dirt, so they're going to be considered dirt, as opposed to the other materials that are just too far removed. They don't resemble dirt, and therefore they are excluded. Now the Gemara just says, well, if you're using these two words, so you should cover it over, and dirt. So say ema, first word on the line is ema, say v'chiso klal afar prat. We know there's a general rule that when you have a more vague word that's more inclusive in, good morning, Steve, in the beginning, and then you have a more specific word. So we have something called a klal uprat. V'chiso klal, you should cover it over. Cover with what? Anything. Afar, dirt, specific, and modifies it. So afar prat, klal uprat, ein bichlal, elamashe biprat. So included in the rule is when you have a klal uprat, when the way you view it is that whatever the specific word is, that's what the vague word was coming to say. So when you say you should cover it, that refers to everything. Then that's very ambiguous. Then you say ba'afar. Afar modifies what the chisohu was talking about. So dirt modifies what you shall cover it is referring to. And therefore, the word v'chiso, you should cover it, is not available to expound to all materials. Rather, it's only referring to dirt. Ein bichlal elamashe beprat, offer in midyakrini lo, only dirt. When you say, there's going to be food tonight. It's going to be steak. So food refers to, it could be any food. When you modify it and say steak, so that's specific. So to here, you'll cover it as vague, but with dirt it's specific. So therefore, it's only referring to dirt and nothing else. So where did you get all these other materials from? Amar of Mari Mishum. Have a klal hatzarich leprat. The kol klal hatzarich leprat ein dan also bichlal ufrat. So it's a little interesting modification of this rule is that sometimes you have vague things which are, they're not so vague. They're just more expansive. They're more ambiguous. And sometimes you have a word like here, you shall cover it, which you shall cover is referring to two totally separate things. You shall cover it could mean cover it with a vessel, or you shall cover it could refer to dirt. So that's too vague. So we need the modifier to help us because it's just too vague. We don't know what it's referring to. So Rashi explains that usually a klal uprat, a vague word followed by a specific word, is when the vague word is referring to one type of whatever the case is. You just don't know exactly which one of those it's talking about. Therefore, the modifier comes and modifies it. But here, the chiso, you shall cover it. It's too vague because it can refer to just covering it over with a vessel, or it's referring to actually using dirt. So that we understand is too vague. That's two separate categories, and therefore we don't say the general rule of klal uprat. Rather, we say like we had earlier that the chiso is just coming to be more. It expands the definition of afar. So we have dirt, and then v'chiso expanded to refer to other things that are similar to dirt, and we won't say the general klal uprat rule. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now we have a. Oh no, not yet. Okay, soon. I got it though. So Darish of Nachman Bar Chisda Ein Mechasen Ela B'Davar Shezdarin Bo Matzmiach. You can only cover over, as our Mishnah said, with something which can grow. So if you're in an area where there's dirt, but that dirt you can't grow any, you can't grow anything there. So then that's not the dirt that we're using for Kisui Dam. So Amar Rava, he says Hayi Burcha. So that's ridiculous. It's like an empty statement. It's like a pit. A pit is empty. So that statement, even he disagrees. I'm later of Nachman. Why are you so harsh? Relax. I'm later of Nachman. My Burcha say, why is it an empty, foolish statement? Ana Amrisa Nihali. I said this to him. Umahal Masnisa Amrisa Nihali. And I said it to him from the following teaching, is where I got it from. Hayim Mahalik Bamidbar. The teaching was, if someone's walking in the desert, the Ein Lo should be Afar. The Ein Lo Afar, and there's no and I guess you're in the desert. You're in the desert, and either you're with your animal that you just slaughtered. So let's say you're walking the desert with Betty, and then you're walking in the desert, and you have a wild animal, and you slaughter it. So now you got to cover the blood. So, but you don't have any dirt to use. Ein Lo Afar lechasos. So what do? You pull out your wallet, take out a gold coin, shochek dinars up. You grind up a gold coin and you cover over it, and you cover it over with that. Or hayim mahalik besfina, you're on a cruise, the ein lo afar, and you don't have any dirt. I guess on the cruise you brought some birds, probably more likely than animals, maybe not. Birds or animals, and you shackled them. What dirt are you going to use? No problem. You ask your friend instead of yours, can I borrow your shirt? So the guy said, for sure, no problem. And you take it and you burn it. So, and then you need new friends. So, so what do? Lechasos. Sorev talisa, you burn your shirt. And now what have you done? You've created ashes. Umechas. Now, one second, the Gemara is making a big assumption over here that ashes are the same as dirt. Now we're going to go through, where do you see that ashes are called dirt? Oh, we're going to see that. Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, how you know gold dust? Yeah, good. So now, exactly. Bishlam sorry if tali. So I understand that. Oh, so he's saying. So Rav Nachman is saying that wasn't a foolish statement because look, I have a teaching that says if you go in the desert, you have nothing to use, so you can't use the dirt in the desert because that doesn't grow anything. You have to use something else. So you grind up your gold coin. So you see, not a foolish statement. I got it from here. So now, when it comes to burning a shirt and then using that ashes to cover over the blood, I'll show you that we have a case in the Torah by Paraduma where we're referring to ashes as dirt. Afar, the ikri, the afer, the ikri, afar. By burning the Paraduma, there it says, the Torah says, V'loch kulatame me afar sreifas achatas. One of the cows that you burn is that you should take from the dirt of the sreifas achatas, of the chatas that was burnt. So, but it's called it dirt, even though it's referring to the ashes. Take from the dirt of the burnt chatas. Well, burnt chatas doesn't give you dirt; it gives you ashes. Oh, you see that they are similar. That would not that they're similar. That we call ashes dirt. So that's fine. That I understand. Ella dinner zabinolan. How do you know that grinding up a gold coin is also referring to dirt? Rabbi Zera, it says in Eov, Makom Safir Avana, the place of the sapphire stones, the Afros Zahavlo. So Afros Zahavlo. So the word Afar is dirt. So and the dirt of the gold will be to him. Dirt of the gold, meaning the ground up gold, will be to him. Yeah. Okay, there you have it. Now, Taner Rabbanon, Ein Mechasen Ela Ba'afar. Bisham said, no, only dirt, not ashes. Ubesil Omrim, what do you mean? Matzinu Efer Shekari Afar. We found ashes that are referred to as dirt. Shinamar, like we just mentioned, we're going to take from the dirt of the burning of the kachatas. So you see that even though the burning creates ashes, but it's called dirt. Wait. We see that it calls ashes dirt. So what do you do with that? Afar sreifa ikri afar. Stamalo ikri. When it says the dirt of the burnt chatas, okay, there you can call it dirt. But in general, if it just says dirt, like it says it by covering the blood, so there we're not going to say it refers to ashes. The fact that it calls it by a burnt chatas, it calls it dirt. Okay, that's specifically over there. But the general rule is whenever you see dirt, it refers to dirt and not ashes, and therefore it's not a question. Tana Hosifilem. This Bryce added some more materials. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce all these in English, or what they are in Hebrew, really. So Hashachar literally means the black. The black is referring to like crushed up coals. Oh, yeah, charcoal. Kachol is a kind of makeup, some kind of eyeliner.
Cosmetic powder made from antimony.
Right. Next anniversary, this is what you're getting. Yeah. So antimony. So Vinikras Pisulin. And Rashi, this language is it's the dirt that's cleaned out of a mill. The Yesh Omrim Av Hazarnich. That's what I don't know what that means. Even the Zarnich. What's a Zarnich?
Powder derived from arsenic and used as a pigment.
Right. Powder derived from arsenic. What's arsenic?
Well, it's a poison, but
a poison.
It's an element.
It's an element, yeah.
It's one of the elements.
One of the elements. It's on the periodic table?
It's on the periodic table.
Okay, so I knew it at one point. So what is it?
Symbol AS.
AS, okay, so Zarnich, fine.
My grandson.
One that got married?
No. Oh. One of the younger ones.
The younger ones. Okay, here comes a little bit. Now that we mentioned dirt and ashes, here we go on to humility. So, Amar Rava. So, Avram Avinu, it was 4 kings against 5 kings, and Avram Avinu went, and the 4 kings won, and he rescued his nephew Lot, and then the Melech of Sdom. Oh, we're not there yet? No, we're not there yet. I jumped the gun. Okay, sorry, coming up in 4 lines. Guns were not invented yet. So Biskarsh Amar Avram Avinu Vanochi Afar Avram Avinu had a statement. He was such a sign of humility. I'm like dirt and ashes. So interesting. That level of humility merited his children 2 commandments, 2 mitzvahs. Zachu banav l'shtei mitzvahs. And it does it in reverse order here. We mentioned dirt and ashes. It goes ashes and dirt first. I think some say because maybe it's more common. Afer para. So the para aduma, we use we have the ashes of the para aduma, and then the afar sota, and for dirt we have in the mitzvah of sota that we use the dirt to checker. So says the Gemara, 1 second, why did he not merit his children the mitzvah of kisui hadam, the lichshav nami afar kisui hadam? So that should be another thing that was merited because of dirt. Why just those 2? So the answer is because hasam hechsher mitzvah ika hanal leka. Because when it comes to the covering the blood, the mitzvah for sure, you're using the dirt for a mitzvah, that's for sure, but there's no benefit to it. As opposed to becoming pure from impurity, like paraduma is beneficial. There's a benefit to that. And creating harmony between husband and wife is also considered a hana, considered a benefit. The fact that you cover over the blood, so it's a mitzvah, but it's not considered a mitzvah, has benefits. So therefore, it's it's on a little bit that though that wasn't included in the amazing merit that in the mitzvahs that we merited as a result of his humility. So now it's about the 4 kings. So now the 4 kings and the 5 kings. So he won the war, and then the king of Sdom offered him. He wanted to give him riches, and Avram says, "No way." If Amar Rava, Pischar Amar Avram Avinu said, Next page. No, I'm not taking not a thread to a shoelace. I don't want not 1 cent from you. Nothing. So because of that refusal to take, so Zachu banav l'shtei mitzvahs. His children merited 2 mitzvahs. L'chut shel techeles, a strand of techeles, v'ritzua shel tefillin, and the strap of tefillin. So, yeah. I heard, interestingly enough, that that's why by Shachris we have a talis and tefillin, because you see that they're connected over here, right? He merited 2 things: strand of techeles, which is the blue thread that goes on a talis, if we would have the special snail, and the ritzut tefillin and the strap of tefillin. So therefore we wear they're connected. So therefore we wear a talis dafka in the morning when we wear tefillin. Okay, so. Now, Bishlama Ritzua Shel Tefillin, I understand the strap of tefillin. It says, Ksiv, V'ro Kol Ami Aretz, Ki Shem Hashem Nikra Lecha. I understand the tangible reward. There's a benefit in tefillin, aside from the mitzvah, but there's the fear of the non-Jews seeing your tefillin because it has on it the name of Hashem. There's the shin in the front, there's a dalet in the back. So I think the yod's by the arm, but at least has the majority of the name of God, so that invokes fear in the nations. There's a rabbi in New York who writes that his grandfather and great uncle were in, I don't know if it was Auschwitz or one of the camps, and they were sneaking tefillin in, which is obviously, one time one of them, the grandfather, great uncle, was wearing tefillin, and a Nazi walked in with a gun and saw it and ran away. That's what he writes. So this verse. So So, Vitanya, Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, this is a great said, that's referring to Elu Tefillin Shibarosh, referring to the tefillin of the head. Okay, now what's the benefit of the strand of techeles? Elachutcha techeles ma'ihi. So what's the benefit of that? The Tanya, Rabbi Meir, Omer Manishan techeles mikol tzavonim. Why do you choose techeles out of all the colors? Maybe choose a different color, choose pink. Yeah? So, Mipnei. What is that? I don't know where to start with the So depends what state you're in, depends what city. I don't know. So So techeles is similar to the sea. The yam doma l'rakia. The sea is similar to the heavens. The rakia doma l'heaven sphere and the l'heaven sapir, and the heavens are similar to this sapphire stone. The heavens appear doma l'kisei hakavod, and that reminds you of the kisei hakavod, of the special honorary chair. The kisei hakavod. So now, why is it similar to that? The Rashi says because the shape of this stone is similar to the form of a chair. And now, and now it says Dichsiv Vayiru es Elokei Yisrael v'Tachas Raglav, the verse in, I'm guessing Yechaz. No, in Shmos. So, which we're interpreting this verse to mean of Dichsiv Kimara Evan Sapir Demus Kisei. So it says that the God of Israel sees v'Tachas Raglav Kimaisa Livnas HaSapir. He sees the act of the sapir, and the sapir is similar to the kisei hakavod. So the benefit is, Rashi explains that Hashem looks, so to speak, at the kisei hakavod, and so to speak, remembers the mitzvah of tzitzis, which corresponds to all the mitzvahs, which corresponds, and therefore uses that as a merit for the Jewish people. And therefore that's a tremendous benefit that that mitzvah is meriting us. It doesn't say it, but I'm assuming maybe it causes atonement or just a merit. One
who steals can repent without undue difficulty as long as he has the stolen property to return.
No, not yet. Before that.
Oh,
That's okay.
Since the helot is a similarity to the throne of glory, when we gaze at the hair of threads, we're reminded of the one who sits on the throne and are regarded as having welcomed the divine presence.
Okay. Now the question that to ask over here is, if at the end of Techeles, the blue string reminds you of the Kisei HaKavod of the divine throne, so just say that. It reminds you of the sea, which reminds you of the heavens, which reminds you of the... So I think one answer at least is that it's not directly the same thing. So it's similar to something similar. So it's not directly similar to the divine throne. It's really more similar to the color of the ocean. And that's really more similar to, it's a little bit different to the color of the sky. So it's not exact, but it's yeah. Okay, yeah, a lot to say about Techeles, but fine. So Amar Rebbe Abba. Now, Kashe Gezel, it's so difficult, is stealing, is taking something which doesn't belong to you. Kashe Gezel HaNechal, that stolen property that was already consumed. Very hard to do tshuva when you already consumed stolen property. So Hanechal Shafilu Tzadikim Gemurim Ein Yechol Lachziro. So this isn't that same story with Avram Avinu. So in the next verse, he says to the king of Sodom, Shenamar Biladi Rakasher Achlu Hanaarim. He says, like, I don't want any benefit except for the things that my, the lads already consumed. That I can't give back to you. Sorry, that was already consumed. Very hard to give back things that aren't yours that were already consumed. So we see that even Tzadikim Gemurim, Avram Avinu, it was hard to give back that which his fellows already consumed. Different food in Sodom. He was not able to give that back. Yeah. Okay. Am Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Elazar Bar Shimon. So Rabbi Yochanan says the name of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, which is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Kol makom she'ata motzei dvaro shel Rabbi Eliezer bino shel Rabbi Yossi HaGlili behaggadah. Anytime you come across a teaching of Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yossi HaGlili, in Agadita, in any Agadic teaching, make your ear asa oznecha kafar chestes. Afar chestes is like it's like a sieve which is very wide, a large funnel. So you put a lot of let's say grain, a lot of flour into it, and it comes out. It only takes it leaves the big stuff there. It only takes the certain things that you want. So too, make your ear, listen carefully and take out the gems that he's saying. So I don't know if this counts for you, Steve, but it's last week's parsha. Lo merubchem mikol am chashak Hashem. A fascinating verse. It's not because you're the greatest of all the nations. So it bothered me. So I saw it. Apparently, it bothered other people too. And let's say we were the biggest of all the nations. That's why you love us, because of our numbers. So some say it refers to the merits. It's our merits, but it's a funny verse. I don't love you because you're the biggest amongst the nations. That's not a reason why you would love us anyways. But okay. Lo merubchem mikol am chashak Hashem. Why I desired you. Rather, at the end of the verse. Rather, it's because ki atem hama'at mikol am literally means you are the smallest of all the nations. Okay, but the Gemara is going to understand that to mean not that you're the smallest, you were the most humble. Contrary to news reports. Yeah, so we're the most humble. So it says, Amar lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, Cheshkani bachem. I desire. It's like an intense. A cheshek is a real intense desire. I desire you. She'afilu b'shah. Even when I give you greatness, b'shah shani mashpia lachem gedula. Even I give you greatness, I make you go to board meetings. No, it doesn't say that. B'shah shani. That's for sure what it means. B'shah shani mashpia lachem. Whenever I give you greatness, what do? Atem amatim atzchem. You lower yourself befanai. And here come a number of examples, and then we're going to contrast that with the non-Jewish rulers. I gave him tremendous greatness. He was the greatest. He was the richest. That people came to from all over the world. Amar lefanav anochi offer Abraham. What was his response? I'm just like dirt and ashes. I gave Moshe and Aaron greatness. Moshe, Aaron, Amar, and what was their response? Amru, v'nachnuma. We're nothing. Compared to you, nothing, zero. So, lit David, I gave David greatness, the king of Israel. And what did he say? Amar, vanochi tola'as v'lo ish. I'm like a worm, not even a person. contemplate how little we are compared to how big the world is, how big Hashem is. Aval ovdei kochavim, but the idolaters are the exact opposite. Ein and Cain. Nasati gedula lenimrod. I gave to Nimrod greatness. And what did he say? Let's build. Hava nivna lanu ir. Let's go build a city. Try to take over Hashem, so to speak. I leparo. I gave Pharaoh greatness. Amar mi Hashem. He said, who is God? So L'Sancheriv, I gave Sancheriv honor. Amar, so he said, interesting, Mi b'chol Elokei Aratzos asher hitzilu es artzam. Who's the God of all the lands? Also questioning Hashem. Okay. When Nebuchadnezzar Amar, so Nebuchadnezzar says, Ela al b'masei av, he said, let me and be Adam and be similar to Hashem, meaning let me go up there on the cloud, so to speak, and be up there. I'll be similar to you. So you're not similar to him at all. So that's a level of haughtiness. L'chera melech tzur, techira melech tzur amar. It says Moshav. It says Moshav Elokim Yashafti B'leiv Yomim. So make me a dwelling place like Hashem. B'leiv Yomim literally means in the heart of the seas. So Rashi says it means that he wanted to build 7 heavens and sit right there with Hashem. So that's extremely haughty. You don't belong there. Sorry. So Amar Rava v'yitem Rabbi Yochanan. Now, out of the statements that were made, so Moshe and Aaron are greater than the ones. It's meaning greater, more humble than Avram Avinu. Shenambar Moshe v'Aaron Yoser Mima Gadol Shenambar Moshe Yoser Ma Shenambar Avram Di'ilu Avram Ksiv. It says v'Avram v'Anochi, I am like dirt and ashes, but I still am something very small, like dirt and ashes, but I'm still something. Moshe Aaron Ksiv v'Nachnuma. What are we? We're not even something. That's even more of a level of humility. V'Amar Rava v'Teimer Rabbi Yochanan. Oh, now more about this. Eina olam eskayim. The world only sustains itself in the merit of Ela b'shvil Moshe v'Aaron. It says over here, what are we? We are what? So, Uksiv Hasam, it says a verse in Eov that Hashem sustains the world al blima. And this word blima, we're going to be expanding now. So in this case, we derive the word blima to be blima. Like what is it? With nothing. So v'nachnuma and blima, nothing there. I think a behema, the Gemara says somewhere, behema is the word ba-ma. But inside the animal is ma, nothing. Nothing animal, no. So now that we mentioned this word blima, we're now going to bring other expositions. So the world only sustains itself because of someone who's bolem es atzmo, keeps his mouth shut at the time of an argument, a time of a fight. He's able to control himself and not respond. Shinemar tola eretz al blima. The world sustains itself on blima is now bolem, the one who keeps his mouth shut during a fight, during an argument. Rabbi Abo Amar Misha Mesim Atzmo Kimisha Eno. The world sustains itself on somebody who makes himself like a nobody. Shenemar Umitachas Zros Olam, under the Zros Olam is like the strengths of the world. So you put yourself under it like nothing, and from there the world is sustained. From under the world's arms. Below are the world's arms. Meaning?
The verse is understood to mean that those who are below, those who allow themselves to be downtrodden, are the arms of what holds up.
Umitachas, the ones who are below, who are make themselves like a nobody. So Zros Olam, those are the ones that sustain the world. Yeah. So, right, there was 2 approaches in the ethical masters in the 1800s. Slobodka and Navardik. Slobodka put a lot of emphasis on the greatness of man, and Navardik put a lot of emphasis on the lowliness of man. So that was their emphasis. They're both trying to get to the same point, but they're different approaches. So the joke is that the guy went into the Navardik yeshiva where they focus on the lowliness of man, and he walks in day one. He wants to fit in, like everyone wants to fit in. So he starts walking around saying, "I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody." He said, "You can't say that around here." He said, "Why not?" He said, "You have to be a somebody to be a nobody. You can't just start out being a nobody." So to here, you don't just walk around, "I'm a nobody." You have to be a somebody. When you're Moshe and Aaron, you have every reason to be haughty, and from that point, you say, "I'm a nobody." That's humility. But just walk around, you're a nobody. That's obvious. We know it's not humility. That's honesty. So yeah. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, it says in the verse in Tehillim, Ha'umnam elam tzedek tidaberun meisharim tishpetu b'nei adam. So now we're gonna have more expositions. So it says ma'um naso, derive this verse, ma'um naso shalom. What is the craftsmanship? I'm gonna ask you, what is your profession? Tell them a lawyer, a doctor, high tech. So no, what is the craft? What is our profession in this world? Olam hazeh, to be yosim atzmo ki'ilen, keep yourself like a mute. Yeah, some of us seem to have switched professions. No, I switched colleges. So yosim atzmo ki'ilen, to make yourself like a mute. So it says maybe we see such a value in being silent. Right? We have the first chapter. Pirgava says nothing better for the body than silence. We have in Pirgavos also the fence for wisdom is silence. Siag lechachma is shtika. So we have a lot of things about the importance of being silent. Maybe yachol af divrei Torah. Maybe even when it comes to Torah, you keep yourself silent. Nope. Talmud lomar tzedek tidaberu. My righteousness, you should speak out. You should speak. So that for that you're not you're not quiet. So that's exactly. No excuse for no sermon, unless the visiting rabbi is coming for Shabbos. Yeah, Yachol Yag is Daito. So maybe you should. Maybe you should. This is a reason to have haughtiness because it sounds like because you're speaking in Divrei Torah. Tamlar no. Meisharim tishvatu b'nei adam, that you have to walk along the straight paths, meaning walk along the straight paths and not which is the path of humility and not the path of arrogance. Amar Rabbi Zira, Amar Rabbi Zeira. I think the word Zeira, then the word Zair means a small one, little one. Speaking of humility, which is interesting. The last name reflects that. Interesting. Not the last name, his name, Rabbi Zeira. Yeah. The Itema Rabbi Bar Yirmiyah. That's just Rabbi the son of Yirmiyah. Nothing too exciting. Yeah. So Mechasin be'afar. So now we're saying what, and here we're continuing to a little bit of a different point that we know that there are certain things that are forbidden from benefit. So there's a whole section. It's really a Gemara in Sukkah, I think, that is using a mitzvah for your own benefit, for benefit, considered benefit or not. So what's the case? You have an Ir Hani Dachas, so a city that most people commit idol worship, so they get killed, and you burn all their all the things inside the city. So now you want to use some of the dirt. Let's say the Ir Hani Dachas, you want to use some of that dirt to cover over the blood of the animal, but that dirt is really prohibited from benefit because it was a dirt involved in a city of idol worship. So the question is, you can't get benefit from it. Is doing a mitzvah considered benefit? Of course, it benefits your soul, but in terms of taking benefit for something, is that considered benefit or not? So says the Gemara, you're allowed to use the dirt for Ir Hani Dachas. Amai, how? Isuri hanahu. You can't use it. It's prohibited from benefit. Amar zeiri. Interesting. What's the difference between zeiri and zeira? Okay, I don't know. It's a Steve question. Amar zeiri lo nitzrucha ella le afar. La'afar afra dichsiv v'es kol shloah tikbot el toch rechova v'sarafta. So it says by Ir Hani Dachas, you take all the spoils, put it into the middle of the city and burn it. So the only things that are prohibited are the parts that all you have to do is just collect it and burn it. But the dirt, it's one more step. You have to uproot it from the ground, collect it, and then burn it. That was not included in the prohibition. The things that are prohibited from benefit are only things that are lacking gathering and burning. Things that are lacking uprooting, gathering, and burning are not included in that, and therefore the dirt of the city of refuge of the Irni Dakas is not considered prohibited from benefit. The Rava Amar, another reason, mitzvahs lav lehenas nitnu. This is a Rashi says this every time this is mentioned. I think that literally the word means, and it could definitely be very easily misunderstood. So the mitzvahs are not given for our benefit. Now, for me, right away, I was like, last week's parsha, I counted, I don't know, 7 or 8 times. It says, I'm giving this to you because it's good for you. Latov, over and over again. So it doesn't mean that the mitzvahs don't have benefit. And it doesn't mean, obviously, God's the ultimate giver. So obviously, He gave us mitzvahs. It's for our ultimate good. But it means that the reason why you fulfill the mitzvahs, Rashi says, is just in the Hebrew, Rashi says, the mitzvahs are given to Yisrael. They're not just given for your own pleasure. Rather, no, that's not why you do them. Lo l'shem hanan, and they weren't given, here's a form of pleasure, enjoy. No. Ella, Rashi says, gzeras melechi aleim. It's a decree of the king. The king said, you do them because why? Because the king said to do them. That's why. Of course, they're also beneficial for you. But you listen to your parents not only because they know what they're talking about, because your parents said so. That's why. So since they're not given, they're just as just for you to benefit from. The reason, the ultimate reason, is because they're the decrees of the king, and that's why we do them. Therefore, there's a famous line: "Mitzvah lav means that that when you have something which is forbidden from benefit and you use it, and we'll see now 2 more examples of this. That's not considered benefit. We're going to see now someone, you're going to have a shofar that was okay. Let's see now. Yosef Ravina v'Kamar la hashmaitza. So he said over this teaching, the Eiser Rav Ruchumi the Ravina, Rav Ruchumi asked Ravina, shofar shalavos chachamim. So we can't get benefit from something that was used for idols. But let's say, they did a pogrom and they stole the shofar and they used it for idol worship, and now it's the only shofar in town. So says the Gemara, lo yitakabo, you cannot blow with it. Says the Gemara. Now we know that there's ideal and there's if you did it, do you fulfill the commandment? So, ma'ilav im takalo yatsa, says the Gemara makes an assumption. It means you can't blow with it. Does that also mean that if you do it, you haven't fulfilled your mitzvah? Therefore, we have a question. What do you mean? You see, if you've not fulfilled your mitzvah, so then mitzvahs are given on some level for our benefit because we're viewing using the shofar as beneficial, and therefore it's prohibited to get benefit from. Says the Gemara, no, that's not what it means. Lo yatsa, what it means is, look, im taka yatsa, of course, if you blow the shofar, it is, you fulfilled the mitzvah. It's just that ideally it's a little bit, it's called ma'ut. It's like disgusting to use the shofar, which is so to speak, appeasing Hashem, to sit on from the seat of judgment to the seat of mercy and judge us, and you're using something which was used for idol worship. So it's just disgusting. But of course, if you use it, it's fine. Now, 1 second. Anything used for idol worship is prohibited from benefit. So how can you use a shofar on Rosh Hashanah to blow? So the answer is because the mitzvahs ultimately weren't given just for our pleasure. That wasn't there. It's mitzvah lav l'hanos. They're given for because they're given to us to fulfill the mitzvah because Hashem said so. So when you use the shofar, it's not, since you're fulfilling a mitzvah with the shofar, it's not considered like you're deriving benefit. Rather, we view it as you're doing the mitzvah of Hashem. That's how we view it. It's not considered, as opposed to, someone makes a vow, you can't get any benefit from you, so they can't go to your house and eat your food. Because that act of eating your food is viewed as a act of deriving benefit. But when you're doing the mitzvah of shofar or any mitzvah, it's not viewed as he's now deriving benefit. Rather, he's doing the decree of the king. And therefore, even something which is prohibited from benefit, like the dirt of the Irni Dakas, according to Rava, or the shofar of Avodah Zarah, of idol worship, we don't view that act of fulfilling the mitzvah as an act of deriving benefit, since that's not what they're there for ultimately. Therefore, you're allowed to do it, even though generally anything from idol worship you can't use. if a fork was used for idol worship, you can't use that fork now, for your own benefit. So another question very similar to this is lulav. You can't take if a lulav was used to worship idols, someone bowed down to the lulav tree or to the lulav, you can't use that lulav for your lulav and etzrog. Says the Gemara, "My lav im nato lo yatsa." Does that mean if you use it, you haven't even filled the mitzvah? And therefore, we see that there is an element of benefit because we view it as deriving benefit. And since it's idol worship, it was used for idol worship, you can't derive benefit from it, and therefore you have not fulfilled your mitzvah. Lo, of course, im nato yatsa. If you take and you do it, you fill the mitzvah. Just once again, it's another form of appeasement. The lulav, the Gemara in Taina says, is used to appease Hashem, so to speak, to bring rain. You see, look, I'm taking something which grew from the ground and needs water, and I'm shaking it. That's supposed to invoke a certain mercy for us to have rain. So it's also another form of appeasement. It's disgusting to use something that was used for idols to appease Hashem. That's a disgusting thing to do, and therefore you can't use it. But not because, but of course, if you did it, of course you fulfill the mitzvah. So, the Hatanya, the Brisa says, Taka lo yatsa, nata lo yatsa. Another Brisa says, if you blew the idol worshiping, use the shofar, you have not fulfilled the mitzvah. If you take the lulav that's used for avodah zarah, you have not fulfilled the mitzvah. So says the Gemara, that's for a different reason. I'll tell you why. Amar Rav Ashi, haki hashta. Are those similar? You're comparing this to the dirt of kisui adam, the dirt to cover over the blood. Haki hashta hasam shiura be'inan va'avodos kachavim. So there, when it comes to a shofar and a lulav, you have to have a measurement. There is a minimal requirement of how large a shofar has to be. It has to be enough that you can hold it in your hands. So, and it's a Gemara Shana, and you can see it from one end to the other. It has to be a certain level, a certain measurement, and a lulav also has to be a certain measurement. Now, here comes a little bit of a very harder to understand for a second, but anything that has a measurement and it's used for idol worship, what's the luck about idol worship? You have to burn it. Anything that has a measurement to it, but now it stands to be burnt, so we view it right now ready as if it's already burnt. Meaning, right now, we don't view that it has any measure to it, because since it's fit to be burnt, it's already viewed that it's like cut up, it's already chopped up, since it's fit to be burnt, it's kesarv dami. We view it as it's already burnt. What's it lacking? One step, just putting it into the fire. Right now, halachically, we view it as it has no measurement to it, as if it's already burnt, and therefore you cannot fulfill the mitzvah with it. So, as opposed to hacha, when it comes to the dirt of the kisui adam, so all the Gemara has to say is there's no minimal requirement, but it doesn't say that. It says hacha kolma demichta male lichsuye. The more it's ground up, the better it is to cover the blood. So the point really is that by dirt, there's no requirement of size of the dirt you need to cover the blood. Therefore, it's fine. The Gemara just adds that the more it's chopped up, the more it's ground up, the better it is for the mitzvah. So therefore, it's different than a shofar and a lulav. But at the end of the day, we do stay with this idea of mitzvahs lav lehenas nitnu. That mitzvahs are not given for the benefit; they're given to fulfill the acts of Hashem. Hadron Allah kisui hadam. Okay.